Today on Cryptic Mass Guitar, we do a comparison between the Epiphone Les Paul Custom and the Gibson Les Paul Tribute. Before we get into things here, I know what the top 3 comments are going to be. So generally when you do Epiphone versus Gibson, you get these 3 comments. Number 1, Epiphone's way better than Gibson. Gibson's way too expensive. I like saving money on the Epiphone. They're the exact same thing somehow. The second comment is, Gibson is way better than Epiphone. You spend more money on Gibson, you get a better value. Epiphone's all Chinese made, even their custom shop. And then the third one is just the goof basket in the background that just goes, they both suck. But I do have 5 sound samples for you today, starting off with what will make everybody happy, which is clean with the bridge middle position and then the neck. And then we'll work all the way up to full-on metal, because it is this channel after all. But I also want to state here, YouTube videos are fantastic resources for, getting alternate opinions, different kind of sides of the coins and stuff like that. You can hear, even though there's, compression in the YouTube videos, you can hear some sound samples and differences. And it's always nice to see different guitars in action. But don't let some doofus like me tell you what guitar to buy. Make that decision for yourself. So the best thing to do would be to go into the store and try these guitars for yourself before you kind of make that decision. Try all the guitars in the store. That way you kind of know what you want to shoot for and you can see which guitar bonds with you the best. That's really the best way to get the best guitar for you. Alright, so there you go. There are the 5 sound samples in the comparison between the Epiphone Les Paul Custom and the Gibson Les Paul Tribute. Why did I do a comparison between these guitars? Because this new, you can basically generally get this used. for the same price. So more than likely that is kind of what you're looking at here. It's more than likely why you're watching this video. So that's kind of why I did this comparison here. So I do want to talk about the specs and the similarities and differences here. So we'll start things off by the bodies. So we are looking at regular Les Paul kind of things. So we have the slab of mahogany for the body with the carved maple top. On top of it, we have body binding on the Les Paul Custom on the front and on the back with no body binding here. But what's always great about these tributes, the maple cap is a little bit of a different color, so it kind of looks like you have binding. They both have set necks. The Epiphone has the slim taper neck on it, whereas the Gibson has the rounded profile. The Epiphone, because it is a Les Paul Custom, has an ebony fretboard with the block inlays, whereas the Gibson here has a rosewood fretboard with the trapezoid inlays. The Epiphone is bound, whereas there's no binding on the Gibson. The headstock on the Epiphone here has the inlaid Epiphone logo and the inlaid diamond logo. I believe that's what it's called. Whereas the Gibson has the silkscreen Gibson and silkscreen Les Paul model on the headstock. Looking at tuners, the Epiphone has, they're actually Wilkinson Grover style pickups here. They work just as well as the Grover Rotomatics. And the Gibson has the Gibson Deluxe Clouson style tuners. Both of these tuners I really enjoy. Some people don't like the vintage style and prefer the Grovers, and there's people who are the other way around as well. Pickup wise, the Epiphone has the Pro Bucker 3 in the bridge and Pro Bucker 2 in the neck, which are vintage sounding. So they're not totally hot, but they're very accurate, and I think they're great pickups. Whereas the Gibson has the 490R and 490T, which are a little on the hot side, so you can more than likely hear that in the comparison between the two. Some people don't like them, but I think they're one of Gibson's most well-rounded pickups. There's a lot of emphasis on the high mids, I find, but they're pretty accurate at reproducing them. Now for bridges, the Epiphone has the Epiphone Locktone Tune-o-matic and stop bar. It's not like the cheaper ones where if you adjust the intonation, it starts to buzz. It's all good here. And the Gibson has the Gibson Nashville style bridge, so the Tune-o-matic and stop bar. Both of these are great bridges. And of course, we have CTS pots here, hand-wired CTS pots on the Epiphone Les Paul Custom, and we have the PCB connections for the Les Paul Tribute. Now, please don't be like some of those people and think because it's a PCB, it means your guitar is a computer. It's not. It's an alternative that's a little cheaper than paying someone to hand solder things, especially in the USA. And of course, as far as weight goes, the Epiphone, I believe, is not weight relieved. And the reason I say I believe is because I can't really find anything that totally determines it. It feels quite heavy, feels very solid. It feels like it's either non-weight relieved or it could be 9-hole weight relieved, but it's also a little thinner than the regular Gibson. So what I'm comparing there it's with a regular Gibson that's non-weight relieved. We do have modern weight relief here in the Gibson Les Paul Tribute. That means if you take the maple cap off, you would actually see like a whole bunch of different routings here on the like on the inside of the body. What that does is it makes the guitar a little lighter, all while maintaining sustain. And it also increases the resonance in the guitar, so a little bit more low end that you're gonna feel. Also, this is a glossed finish, not a gloss nitro. And this here is satin nitro finish. So what does that mean? It's a little softer to you. Some people don't like the gloss finish. I much prefer it. But this also has a little more resonance to it, feel-wise. And this has a little more presence feel-wise, and this has a little more resonance feel-wise. that's kind of what you get when it's gloss versus satin. Now, a lot of times in these videos here, this is the point where I kind of put each guitar in my lap, but they're both pretty similar. You're basically going to be looking at, this is made in China, this is made in the USA. You have Wilkinson tuners, which are fantastic. You have the Epiphone branded pickups and the Epiphone branded bridge, where Gibson, and Gibson Clusson style. But really what you're looking at here is kind of feel. And both of these feel really good when playing. I find that I'm totally surprised by the Epiphone. It's a solid guitar, but just the feel of the Gibson when you're striking the strings, I do have to give my personal edge to the Gibson. Now, I own the Gibson and I rented the Epiphone, so you can take, you know, whatever you want away from that. But playing all of the Epiphones that I've played so far, they feel a little dull in comparison to the Gibsons. It seems like the Gibsons have a little more bite to them, but you might prefer dull over, you know, bite. So again, this is just my opinion here on what I'm noticing when I'm playing the guitars. And if you don't like what I'm saying, but you like the Epiphone, buy the Epiphone. If you don't like what I'm saying and you like the Gibson, then buy the Gibson. It's up to you. As long as you like your guitar, that's all I care about. Thanks for watching.